There is a question that echoes in the quietest moments of so many lives. It is not a question spoken aloud, but a silent plea, a feeling that rises from the depths of our being during times of struggle, of uncertainty, of overwhelming difficulty. It is a question whispered in the dark in the middle of the night, when the weight of our ambitions and the reality of our circumstances feel miles apart. The question is this: who is coming to help me? Who is coming to save me? It is a deeply human question, born from the stories we were told as children, of heroes, of saviors, of knights in shining armor. It is a hope ingrained in our cultural DNA. We learn to look to the horizon, to wait for a rescuer to appear. We wait for the mentor who will discover our hidden talent. We wait for the perfect partner who will complete us. We wait for the government to create the right economy, for our boss to finally recognize our contribution, for a lucky break to fall from the sky and rearrange the pieces of our lives into the picture we have in our minds. We stand on the shore of our own potential, diligently tending to a signal fire of hope, waiting for a ship to appear on the horizon, a ship that will carry us away from our current struggles and deliver us to the promised land of our dreams. We wait, and we wait, and we wait. But I am here today to share with you a truth that is, at first, one of the most terrifying a person can ever hear. And then, a moment later, it becomes the most profoundly liberating truth you will ever embrace. The truth is this: the call will go unanswered. The ship is not coming. The Savior you are waiting for does not exist. No one is on their way. Now, before a wave of despair washes over you, I want you to listen very closely. This is not a message of cynicism. It is not a message of hopelessness. In fact, it is the only message of hope that has any real power. Because the moment you stop looking to the horizon is the moment you are forced to turn inward. And it is in that inward turn that you discover the secret that has been waiting for you all along. The rescuer you have been waiting for is you. The power you have been seeking in others has resided within your own spirit from the very beginning. The strength, the wisdom, the determination, the courage, it is all there, dormant, waiting for you to stop, waiting for someone else, and to finally call upon it. You are, and always have been, the answer to your own call. For the next half hour, we will embark on a journey of profound self-reclamation. We will not be discussing tips, tricks, or superficial strategies. We will be discussing the fundamental principles of a life of personal sovereignty. We will explore the deep anatomy of why we wait, and the powerful, life-altering process of taking absolute, unconditional responsibility for our own existence. This is a conversation about the transition from a passive life of waiting to an active life of creation. It is time to extinguish the signal fire of hope in an external savior. It is time to pick up the tools that lie at your own feet. It is time to begin the rescue. Let us first dissect this great myth of external salvation. Why is it so seductive? Why do so many intelligent, capable people spend the best years of their lives in a state of passive waiting? The reason is simple: it is comfortable. The act of waiting absolves us of the terrifying weight of total responsibility. As long as we are waiting for a mentor, we have an excuse for not taking the first awkward steps on our own. As long as we are waiting for the perfect moment, we have a justification for our own procrastination. As long as we are blaming our circumstances, the economy, our past, our boss, we get to occupy the morally comfortable but ultimately powerless position of the victim. The victim mindset is a warm, soft prison. It protects us from the possibility of failure, because if we are a victim, the outcome was never in our control to begin with. The bars of this prison are forged from our own excuses. We wait for the myth of the big break. We believe that success is an event, a lottery ticket, a moment when a powerful person discovers us and anoints us with opportunity. But this is a fantasy. Success is not an event, it is a process. It is a slow, grinding, unglamorous, daily process of showing up and doing the work. The people who achieve greatness are not the ones who were discovered. They are the ones who made themselves impossible to ignore through the sheer force of their own consistent effort. We wait for the myth of the perfect conditions. We tell ourselves, I'll start my business when the economy improves. I'll get serious about my health after the holidays. I'll write my book once I have a better office. This is one of the most sophisticated lies we tell ourselves. It is procrastination dressed up in the language of prudence. The truth is, the conditions will never be perfect. The path will never be clear. The stars will never perfectly align. The person who waits for a clear, risk-free path will die waiting at the trailhead. The acceptance of the liberating truth that no one is coming is the most powerful turning point in a person's life. It is the moment you grow up. It is the moment you graduate from being a passenger in your own life to being the driver. Imagine a person is stranded on a deserted island. For years, they keep a signal fire burning, spending all their energy scanning the horizon for a ship. Their days are filled with the anxiety of waiting and the disappointment of an empty sea. But one day, a profound realization dawns on them. No ship is coming. If I am to get off this island, I must build the raft myself. What happens in that moment? For the first time, all of their energy, which had been directed outward in passive hope, is now redirected inward toward active creation. They stop scanning the horizon and they start surveying the resources on their own island. They see the trees not as scenery, but as lumber. They see the vines not as weeds, but as rope. They see their own two hands not as instruments for waving, but as tools for building. The acceptance of their predicament was not the end, it was the beginning of their true power. You are on that island, and this is that moment. The moment you accept that no one is coming is the moment you are finally free. You are free from the disappointment of unmet expectations. You are free from the resentment of blaming others. You are free to pick up your own tools and begin the magnificent work of building your own raft, of charting your own course, of sailing toward the destination of your own choosing. So, if you are the rescue, what is your equipment? What is the arsenal within that allows you to carry out this mission? This is what the remainder of our entire series will be about. But let us now survey the tools at our disposal. Your first and most powerful piece of equipment is the principle of sovereignty. It is the unshakable understanding that you are the sole and absolute ruler of your own life. You do not need permission. You do not need approval. Your thoughts, your decisions, and your actions are the only governing forces that matter. Your second piece of equipment is the engine of discipline. This is the power that propels your raft even when there is no wind of motivation. It is the commitment to do the necessary work, especially when it is uncomfortable, knowing that effort is the currency of achievement. Your third piece of equipment is the compass of attention. This is the ability to focus your energy, to ignore the siren song of distraction, and to keep your gaze fixed on your destination. Where your attention goes, your life follows. Your fourth piece of equipment is the brute force of action. It is the understanding that you cannot think your way off the island. You must act your way off. Action is the antidote to fear, the cure for doubt, and the creator of all results. This is the rescue kit you were born with: a sovereign mind, a disciplined will, a focused attention, and a capacity for relentless action. You have had it all along. The journey we are on is not about acquiring new equipment. It is about learning to use the magnificent equipment you already possess. This transition from waiting to acting, from victim to creator, is the great work of our lives. It is the central theme of every great story, every epic myth. It is the hero's journey, and the hero is you. The journey does not begin when the mentor appears. It begins when the hero realizes they must become their own mentor. It does not begin when the path is made clear. It begins when the hero decides to cut their own path through the wilderness. The 10 disciplines we are about to explore in this series are not just a collection of ideas. They are the training manual for the rescuer. They are the practical, philosophical, and psychological tools you will use to take absolute control of your life. Each one is a step away from the life of passive waiting and a step towards the life of active creation. This is not a lecture to be passively consumed. It is an initiation. It is an invitation to participate in your own rescue. It is a call to awaken the dormant power that lies within you. So, as we prepare to embark on this journey through the 10 disciplines, let us make a pact, you and I. Let us agree to leave the mindset of the waiting person behind forever. Let us agree to stop looking for saviors. Let us agree that from this day forward, we will look only to the person in the mirror. The call has been made. It is echoing from the heart of your own potential. The rescuer has been identified. It is you. It is time to begin the work. It is time to handle it. We have now stood together at the great turning point of human existence. We have asked the question that has echoed through the ages, who is coming to save me? And we have faced the terrifying and ultimately liberating truth. No one is coming. The ship is not on the horizon. The call will go unanswered. We have accepted that the rescue is not an external event, but an internal awakening. We have identified the rescuer, and they are us. This acceptance, this profound realization, is not an end. It is the beginning. It is the prerequisite for the first, most critical act of self-rescue. It is the moment we stop being a castaway waiting on a foreign shore and begin the solemn, powerful process of claiming our own kingdom. This brings us to the first and the most foundational of all the disciplines. Before you can learn any technique, before you can build any habit, before you can achieve any goal, you must first assume the proper posture of power. You must undergo a coronation. This is the first discipline, the principle of sovereignty. I want you to consider a new metaphor for your life. Your life is a vast and magnificent empire. Your mind is the capital city, the seat of all governance. Your body is the territory, the land itself. Your energy is your treasury, the wealth that funds all your endeavors. Your habits and skills are your armies. Your attention is your chief advisor. And you alone, are its rightful sovereign. You are the king. You are the queen. For too long, most of us have been absentee monarchs. We may hold the title, but we have abdicated the throne. We have allowed our empire to be ruled by a chaotic committee of external forces. We have outsourced the governance of our own lives. The first and most common way we abdicate our power is through the tyranny of approval. We have been conditioned to seek validation for our own existence. We look to our parents, our peers, our partners, and the faceless crowd of social media, and we implicitly ask them for permission to be ourselves. We float an idea for a new business, and if the court of public opinion deems it too risky, we retreat. We have a unique passion, but if our friends find it strange, we hide it. We make decisions about our career, our relationships, and even our own happiness based not on our own internal counsel, but on the shifting, unreliable polls of those around us. To live this way is to allow your empire to be governed by foreign powers who do not have your best interests at heart. They are not malicious. They are simply the busy sovereigns of their own empires. They are far too consumed with the governance of their own lives to give yours the thoughtful, focused attention it requires and deserves. When I say nobody cares, it is not a message of cynicism. It is the ultimate message of freedom. The liberating truth is that nobody is thinking about you as much as you think they are. Their fleeting opinion of your life is a footnote in the grand epic of their own. The realization that you are not performing for an attentive audience is what finally gives you the freedom to stop performing altogether and to start living. The sovereign ruler does not seek approval from other kingdoms to make decisions within their own. They may seek counsel, they may gather intelligence, but the final decree comes from their own throne room. The second way we abdicate our power is through the comfort of blame. Blame is the most seductive of all poisons. It allows us to feel righteous indignation without demanding any responsibility. To blame your circumstances, your past, the economy, your boss, the government, is to declare that these external forces are the true rulers of your empire. To blame the economy for your financial situation is to make the economy your king. To blame your past for your present mindset is to make your history your ruler. The sovereign understands that blame is the act of willingly giving your power away. It is to place the locus of control for your life outside of yourself. The sovereign may not be at fault for every circumstance that befalls their kingdom. A storm may come that they did not create, but they are absolutely and unconditionally responsible for the response to that storm. The circumstances of your life are merely the intelligence reports from the field. They are data. They are the landscape upon which you must act. A wise ruler does not curse the landscape. They study it, they understand it, and they begin to shape it according to their will. The moment you stop blaming is the moment you reclaim your power. It is the moment you stop being a victim of your history and start being the creator of your destiny. This is the coronation. It is the moment you stand in the capital city of your own mind and you declare to yourself and to the universe, I am in charge here. The waiting is over. The blaming is over. I am the sovereign. And so, how does a sovereign rule? Once you have claimed your throne, what are the pillars upon which your governance is built? There are three. The first pillar is the law of absolute responsibility. This is the foundational law of a sovereign life. It is the understanding that you are responsible for everything in your empire. This does not mean you control everything. It means you are responsible for your response to everything. You are responsible for the thoughts you cultivate, the words you speak, the actions you take, the habits you build, and the meaning you assign to the events of your life. It is a terrifying responsibility, and it is the only path to true freedom. The victim is a slave to their circumstances. The sovereign is the master of their response. The second pillar is the practice of the internal throne room. A wise ruler does not make critical decisions in the chaotic, noisy courtyard of public opinion. They retreat to the quiet solitude of their own throne room. Your internal throne room is a mental space you must learn to create. It is a space for deep, uninterrupted reflection, away from the endless notifications and demands of the external world. Before any significant decision, the sovereign gathers intelligence. They listen to their advisors. They read the reports. But then they must dismiss the court. They must be willing to sit alone in silence and consult their own internal compass, their values, their vision, their intuition. The ability to be alone with your own thoughts, to hear your own inner wisdom above the noise of the world, is the hallmark of a true leader. The quality of your life will be a direct reflection of the quality of the decisions you make in your own throne room. The third pillar is the language of sovereignty. The words you use, both internally to yourself and externally to others, are not just descriptions of your reality. They are the very spells that create it. A victim speaks a language of powerlessness. A sovereign speaks a language of agency. You must banish the language of victimhood from your vocabulary. You no longer say, I have to go to work. You say, I choose to go to work because I value providing for my family. You no longer say, I can't afford that. You ask, how can I create the value that would make that affordable? You no longer say, it's not fair. You state, it is what it is. Now, what is my next move? The shift from I have to I choose to is one of the most powerful you can ever make. It transforms every obligation into an act of personal will. You are not a pawn being moved by external forces. You are a player choosing your moves. This linguistic discipline is not a trick. It is a constant reinforcement of your own sovereignty. With these three pillars in place, absolute responsibility, the internal throne room, and the language of sovereignty, you are now ready to perform the daily duties of a ruler. What does a sovereign do each day? First, they issue decrees. The sovereign does not wake up and wonder what the day will bring. They wake up and decide what they will bring to the day. They set clear intentions. They identify the one or two most important priorities for the empire, and they resolve to address them. The day does not happen to them, they happen to the day. Second, they manage the treasury. Your energy is your most valuable and finite resource. A wise sovereign is ruthless in protecting their treasury from waste. They identify the people, the activities, and the habits that are drain on their energy, the leaks in their treasury, and they eliminate them. They understand that their ability to build, to create, and to lead is directly proportional to the energy they have at their disposal. Third, they train their armies. The sovereign knows that their power to enact their will upon the world is a direct result of the strength and skill of their armies, which are their habits and their skills. Therefore, they invest time every single day in training. They practice their craft, they read, they exercise. They build the small, disciplined habits that, when combined, become an unstoppable force. And fourth, they review intelligence reports. At the end of the day, the sovereign reviews the results. They look at what worked and what didn't, not with judgment, but with strategic curiosity. A failed project is not a personal failure. It is an intelligence report that reveals a flawed strategy. They learn from the report adjust the plan, and prepare for the next day's campaign. This is the work. This is the life of the sovereign. It is a life of profound responsibility, of deep integrity, and of limitless possibility. The throne of your life is sitting empty, waiting for you. No one else can claim it for you. You must have the courage to step up, to accept the crown and the scepter, and to begin the challenging, magnificent work of ruling your own empire. This is your first discipline. This is your coronation. This is the moment you stop waiting for the rescue and you become the ruler. We have now stood together at the coronation. We have made the single most significant decision of a human life, the decision to end the long abdication and to finally claim the throne of our own empire. We have accepted the profound and liberating weight of the crown, declaring ourselves the sovereign ruler of our mind, our actions, and our destiny. We have embraced the first great principle of the rescuer, the principle of sovereignty. But a ruler with a crown, a throne, and a title, but no power to enact their will upon their kingdom, is merely a figurehead, a sovereign in name only. Once you have claimed your authority, you must immediately ask, what is the instrument of that authority? What is the scepter through which the sovereign's vision is made manifest in the physical territory of their life? The answer is not force. It is not decree. It is not hope. The primary tool of the sovereign, the very mechanism of creation and control, is a quiet, internal, and all-powerful force. This brings us to the second and most essential discipline of a life of power. This is the discipline that translates the sovereign's intention into tangible reality. This is the alchemy of discipline. There are few words in the English language as misunderstood and as feared as the word discipline. For most people, the word conjures images of punishment, of restriction, of a cold, joyless, and rigid existence. We think of the drill sergeant, of the harsh taskmaster, of a life devoid of spontaneity and pleasure. And because we hold this grim view, we run from discipline. We see it as the enemy of our freedom, the opposite of the life we wish to live. But this is a profound and tragic misunderstanding. It is a misconception that keeps the vast majority of people locked in a prison of their own making, a prison of inconsistency, of unrealized potential, and of broken promises to themselves. I am here today to offer you a new and far more powerful definition. Discipline is not the cage. It is the key that unlocks the cage. Discipline is not the enemy of freedom. It is the very vehicle through which true freedom is achieved. And discipline is not punishment. Discipline is alchemy. Alchemy was the ancient mystical art of transformation. The alchemists of old sought to take common, worthless lead and, through a secret process, transmute it into pure, precious gold. The discipline of discipline is the practical, real-world alchemy that allows you to perform this same miraculous transformation within your own life. It is the process that turns the common leaden material of your daily effort into the shining gold of your skills, your character, and your achievements. Let us explore this alchemical process. The first transformation is that discipline turns the lead of effort into the gold of skill. Every master of every craft, the master musician, the master athlete, the master entrepreneur, was once a clumsy, incompetent beginner. The only thing that separates the master from the beginner is a vast quantity of focused, disciplined, and often frustrating effort. That effort, in its raw form, is like lead. It is heavy, it is unrefined, and it is not very valuable. The beginner's first attempts are rarely beautiful. They are awkward, they are filled with mistakes, and they produce poor results. This is the point where most people stop. They feel the discomfort of their own incompetence. They see the poor quality of their initial efforts, and they conclude, I'm just not good at this. But this is like a miner giving up because the first rock he picks up is not a diamond. The master understands the alchemical power of discipline. They know that if you take that heavy, leaden effort and you apply the consistent heat of daily practice, it will begin to change. The mistakes will become less frequent. The awkwardness will begin to smooth into competence. The competence, over time, will begin to polish into skill. And the skill, with years of relentless, disciplined application, will eventually shine with the unmistakable brilliance of mastery. Discipline is the furnace, your consistent effort is the fire, and the skill you desire is the gold that is forged within it. Without the furnace of discipline, your raw effort will forever remain just lead. The second transformation is that discipline turns the discomfort of pain into the diamond of resilience. As we have discussed, the path of the sovereign, the path of the rescuer, is not a path of comfort. It is a path of challenge. It is a path that guarantees you will encounter pain, the pain of struggle, the pain of failure, the pain of pushing beyond your perceived limits. The undisciplined person runs from this pain. They seek comfort above all else. They choose the easy path, the path of least resistance. But in doing so, they remain soft, they remain brittle, they remain fragile, easily broken by the first real challenge that life presents. The disciplined person understands a deeper truth. They understand that pain is the pressure that transforms the common carbon of their character into the unbreakable diamond of their resilience. They do not seek pain for its own sake, but they do not run from the productive pain of growth. When they feel the burn in their muscles during a workout, they recognize it as the feeling of strength being born. When they feel the mental strain of focusing on a difficult problem, they recognize it as the feeling of their mind becoming sharper. When they feel the sting of rejection or failure, they recognize it as the feeling of their emotional resilience being fortified. Discipline is the choice to lean into that productive discomfort. It is the choice to endure the temporary pressure, knowing that it is this very pressure that is forging within you an inner strength that no external circumstance can ever break. The person who has consistently chosen the path of discipline can withstand the storms of life, not because the storms are weak, but because they themselves have become diamond hard. The third and final transformation is that discipline turns the chaos of emotion into the clarity of purpose. Your emotions are powerful, but they are also fickle and chaotic. Some days you will wake up feeling motivated, inspired, and powerful. On these days, action is easy. But on other days, you will wake up feeling tired, doubtful, frustrated, or bored. If you allow your actions to be dictated by the shifting weather of your daily moods, your life will be a chaotic, unpredictable, and inconsistent journey. You will be a ship without a rudder, blown about by the random winds of your feelings. Discipline is the rudder. Discipline is the quiet, steadying force that says, it does not matter how I feel today. It only matters what I have committed to do. I have. The disciplined person acknowledges their feelings. They do not suppress them. They feel the frustration. They feel the doubt. They feel the exhaustion. But they do not allow those feelings to sit in the captain's chair. They thank their emotions for the information they provide, and then they calmly direct their actions based on their commitments, not on their mood. This is the ultimate form of personal power. To be able to act in alignment with your deepest values and your highest goals, regardless of the temporary, chaotic state of your emotions. This is how great works are created. This is how empires are built. Not in a single burst of inspired passion, but through the slow, steady, day-by-day application of disciplined action, especially on the days when passion is nowhere to be found. Discipline transforms the chaotic, emotional energy within you into the focused, directed laser beam of your purpose. So this is the true nature of discipline. It is the master alchemist of a life well lived. But how do we build it? If we are currently undisciplined, how do we begin to construct this internal forge? We do so by understanding that discipline is a muscle. And like any muscle, it is not built in a single heroic act. It is built through small, consistent, and progressively challenging repetitions. The first principle of building discipline is the principle of the smallest viable action. You do not start by trying to lift the heaviest weight in the gym. You start with a weight you know you can lift, even if it feels ridiculously small. The goal is not to impress anyone. The goal is to begin the process of building the muscle. If your goal is to write a book, you do not start by trying to write a chapter. You start by committing to writing one perfect sentence. If your goal is to run a marathon, you do not start by trying to run 10 miles. You start by committing to putting on your shoes and walking around the block. The purpose of this first small action is simply to prove to yourself that you can keep a promise. This leads to the second principle, the law of compounding integrity. As we have discussed, every time you keep a promise to yourself, no matter how small, you make a deposit of integrity into your own psychological bank account. The act of writing that one sentence, of taking that one walk, is a deposit. You said you would do it, and you did it. Tomorrow, you make another small deposit, and the day after, another. These small daily acts of discipline begin to compound. Your trust in yourself begins to grow. You start to see yourself not as an undisciplined person, but as a person who is in the process of becoming disciplined. This shift in identity is the true magic. Your actions begin to rewire your self-perception. Finally, you must embrace productive pain. As the muscle of your discipline grows stronger, you must gradually increase the weight. You must seek out the feeling of productive discomfort. This means choosing the harder task over the easier one. It means holding your focus for 5 minutes longer than is comfortable. It means taking the stairs instead of the elevator. Each time you deliberately choose the path of greater resistance, you are performing another repetition, making the muscle of your discipline stronger. This is the path. It is not glamorous. It is not a secret hack. It is the simple, honest, and powerful work of showing up day after day and choosing the alchemy of discipline over the comfort of mediocrity. The sovereign ruler, having claimed their throne, now has their scepter in hand. It is the scepter of discipline. With it, they have the power to transform the raw, leaden material of their daily life into the shining gold of the future they are determined to create. It is the tool that forges their will into reality. It is the source of their true and lasting power. We have now established the two pillars upon which a life of self-rescue is built. We have first claimed our throne, embracing the profound responsibility and ultimate freedom of the principle of sovereignty. We have accepted that we, and we alone, are the rulers of our own empire. Following that, we have forged the sovereign's scepter, the alchemy of discipline. We have come to understand discipline not as punishment, but as the transformative force that turns the lead of our daily efforts into the gold of our skills and the diamond of our character. We have the authority, and we have the tool to enact our will. This brings us to a critical and modern challenge. A powerful engine without a skilled driver will inevitably crash. A disciplined army without a focused general will scatter its forces and lose the war. You may possess the most potent discipline in the world, but if that disciplined energy is directed at 1,000 trivialities, your life will be a masterpiece of efficient stagnation. Power must have direction, and the force that directs all power in your life is your attention. This leads us to our third discipline, one that is perhaps the most crucial for thriving in the modern world, the curation of attention. I want you to consider a new metaphor. Your mind is a grand and sacred museum. It is a vast space with soaring ceilings and endless halls. You are its head curator, and your attention is the sole powerful force that decides which exhibits are put on display. The quality of this museum, which is the quality of your life, your thoughts, and your reality, is a direct reflection of the quality of your curation. What you choose to place on the walls of your mind is what you will think about. What you think about is what you will feel. What you feel is what you will do. And what you do is what you will become. Everything begins with the curator's choice. Everything begins with what you choose to pay attention to. Your life is the sum total of your focuses. Now, we must understand that this museum is located in the middle of a war zone. We live in an age that has been rightly called the attention economy. There are trillion-dollar industries powered by the most brilliant minds of a generation whose entire business model is based on one thing: hijacking your attention. They are professional art thieves, experts at breaking into your museum and replacing your chosen masterpieces with their own junk exhibits. Your attention is the most valuable currency you possess, and everyone wants to steal it. They want to sell it to advertisers. They want to use it to shape your opinions. They want to addict you to the fleeting, sugary rush of novelty and outrage. These are the thieves of attention. The first is the thief of novelty. This is the endless scroll, the constant stream of notifications, the blinking lights and vibrating alerts designed to trigger the most primitive part of your brain that craves the new. It keeps you in a state of perpetual, low-level distraction, unable to settle your focus on any one thing for a meaningful period of time. The second is the thief of outrage. The algorithms that govern our digital world have learned a simple truth. Nothing captures human attention quite like anger and fear. And so they feed you a steady diet of it. They show you the worst of humanity, the political divisions, the crises, the disasters. They want you angry. They want you afraid. Because an angry and fearful mind is an engaged mind. It is a mind that cannot look away. The third is the thief of social obligation. This is the perceived pressure to be always available, to respond to every email within minutes, to be present in every group chat, to like every photo. It creates a life of constant reactivity, where your agenda is perpetually being set by the demands of others. If you are not a conscious and ruthless curator, these thieves will overrun your museum. Your mental halls will be cluttered with meaningless trivia, with secondhand outrage, and with the shallow priorities of other people. And in this cluttered, noisy, chaotic museum, there will be no space, no silence, and no light for your own masterpieces to be displayed. Your grand vision, your goals, your purpose, they will be left forgotten in a dusty basement, while the junk exhibits take up all the prime real estate. The life of mediocrity is the life of a poorly curated mind. The life of excellence is the life of a masterfully curated one. The work of the master curator involves three ongoing essential duties. The first duty is the art of selection. This is defensive curation. The most important word in the curator's vocabulary is no. A great museum is defined not just by what it displays, but by the thousands of mediocre pieces it refuses to display. You must become a vigilant and unapologetic gatekeeper for your mind. This starts with your information diet. Just as you would not build a strong, healthy body by eating only junk food, you cannot build a strong, clear mind by consuming only junk information. You must consciously choose to starve yourself of the trivial and the toxic. This means making a deliberate decision to disengage from the 24-hour news cycle. It means deleting the social media apps that leave you feeling empty and inadequate. It means unfollowing the sources of outrage and negativity. You replace this junk food with nourishing, high-quality sources. You read books that have stood the test of time. You listen to long-form interviews with people you admire. You study your craft with a deep and singular focus. You are not ignorant of the world. You are simply choosing to engage with it on your own terms, through a lens of learning and growth, not of fear and distraction. This art of selection also applies to your social circle. As the sovereign, you are the gatekeeper of your court. Toxic people, chronic complainers, and cynics are not just a drain on your energy, they are thieves of your attention. They demand that you focus on their drama, their problems, and their negativity. A master curator politely but firmly limits access to these people. You build a circle of advisors, friends, mentors, and peers who are focused on possibility, on solutions, on growth. You curate a social environment that elevates your thinking rather than one that pollutes it. The second duty is the art of exhibition. This is offensive curation. It is not enough to simply keep the junk out of your museum. You must be a deliberate and intentional agent in choosing which masterpieces you will display. The central hall, the grandest room in your entire museum, must be reserved for your prime exhibit, your vision. This is your single most important goal, your purpose, the plot of your story. You must curate time every single day to put this exhibit on display. This means scheduling time in your calendar for deep work, uninterrupted, highly focused blocks of time where you work on the one thing that matters most. During this time, the rest of the museum is closed to the public. The doors are locked, the phones are off. It is just you and the masterpiece. A life of significance is built in these sacred, focused blocks of time. Next, you must dedicate a wing of your museum to the wing of learning. This is where you display the knowledge and skills you need to acquire. The curator does not wait for knowledge to appear. They actively seek it out. They are lifelong students. deliberately choosing what they need to learn and curating the resources, the books, the courses, the mentors to learn it. And finally, a great museum must have a garden of silence. This is a space you curate for no input at all. It is a time for quiet walks, for meditation, for simply sitting and allowing your thoughts to settle. In our noisy, overstimulated world, silence is the most luxurious and productive state of all. It is in the garden of silence that the mind processes what it has learned. It is where disparate ideas connect. It is where true, original thought is born. Without this curated silence, your museum becomes a chaotic warehouse of unorganized information. The third duty is the art of maintenance. Curation is not a one-time event. The thieves of attention are relentless. They are always rattling the gates. The work of the curator is a daily practice. This practice begins with a daily briefing. When you wake up, before you allow the world to rush in, you, the curator, must spend a few quiet moments reminding yourself of the day's primary exhibition. What is the most important thing I will give my attention to today? You set your intention. You prime your mind to filter for what matters. During the day, you practice working in focused sprints. A great curator does not wander aimlessly through the halls. They work with intense focus on one exhibit for a set period of time, and then they take a deliberate break to recharge. This rhythm of intense focus followed by rest is the key to sustainable, high-quality output. And at the end of the day, the curator performs an end-of-day review. They look at the logs. They ask a simple, honest question: where did my attention actually go today? Did I spend my time in the main hall working on my masterpiece, or did I get lost in the gift shop, distracted by cheap souvenirs? This is not an act of self-judgment. It is an act of honest accounting, allowing you to make a better curatorial plan for tomorrow. This is the discipline. It is the conscious daily act of being the master of your own mind. When you practice this, your life will transform. You will experience a clarity of thought that is impossible for the distracted mind. You will find an efficiency of action that feels like a superpower in a world of fractured focus. You will achieve more in a few focused hours than most people achieve in a week of busy, distracted work. But most importantly, you will find a deep and abiding peace of mind. The anxiety, the overwhelm, the feeling of being constantly behind, these are the symptoms of an uncurated life. When you are the one in control of your focus, you are present, you are calm, you are powerful. Your attention is the raw energy of creation. You can either allow it to be scattered to the winds, a chaotic and powerless force, or you can choose to be the master curator, channeling that energy like a focused, powerful laser beam, capable of carving your vision into the very fabric of reality. The choice is yours in every single moment. We have now journeyed through the critical internal architecture of a sovereign life. We have claimed our throne. We have forged our scepter of discipline. And most recently, we have become the master curator of our own attention, learning to guard the sacred museum of our mind against the chaos of the distracted world. We have established our internal world. The blueprint is clear. The engine is primed. The focus is sharp. But a magnificent blueprint that is never built, a powerful engine that is never engaged, and a focused mind that never creates are all exercises in pure potential. And potential by itself is worthless. The bridge between the magnificent, well-ordered inner world you have designed and the tangible, external world you wish to experience is built of a single, powerful, and non-negotiable material. This brings us to the fourth, and perhaps most deceptively simple, of all the disciplines. It is the discipline that gives life to all the others. It is the moment the architect leaves the drafting table and picks up the hammer. This is the philosophy of action. The world as it exists today is broadly divided into two groups of people. It is not the rich and the poor. It is not the educated and the uneducated. It is not the talented and the untalented. The great divide that separates a life of achievement from a life of frustration is the divide between the theorist and the practitioner. The theorist is the person who lives in the world of ideas, of plans, of intentions. Their life is a masterpiece of preparation. They are always getting ready to get ready. They have read all the books. They have attended all the seminars. They can speak with great intelligence and eloquence about what they are going to do. They have a brilliant, detailed, and well-researched plan for success. There is only one thing they lack: results. The life of the theorist is governed by the seductive and paralyzing voice of the excuse. The excuse is the primary tool of the person who is committed to avoiding action. And the excuse is a master of disguise. Sometimes it disguises itself as prudence. The conditions aren't right yet. I need to wait for the market to be more favorable. Sometimes it disguises itself as a commitment to quality. I'm not ready yet. I need to learn more. I need to perfect the plan. And sometimes it disguises itself as humility. Who am I to do this? I don't have the credentials or the experience. But if you strip away these elegant costumes, at the core of every excuse, you will find the same thing: a deep and abiding fear of the discomfort of action. The theorist becomes a brilliant and eloquent defender of their own inaction. They build an elaborate fortress of reasons and justifications around their comfort zone. Their life becomes a long, sad story of explanation, not of execution. Now, let us contrast this with the practitioner. The practitioner understands a fundamental law of the universe. Reality does not respond to your intentions, your hopes, or your brilliant plans. It responds only to your actions. The practitioner is less concerned with having the perfect plan and is infinitely more concerned with taking the next step. Their life is not a story of explanation. It is a story of experimentation. They live by a simple, powerful code: do the work. This is the great divide. You must choose which life you will lead. Will you be the theorist whose legacy is a library of unexecuted plans? Or will you be the practitioner whose legacy is a world that has been tangibly shaped by your efforts? To make the transition from theorist to practitioner, you must adopt a new philosophy. You must come to understand the true, multifaceted nature of action. Action is not simply the final step in a long process of thinking. Action is the process. Action serves three vital functions. The first is that action is the great clarifier. The theorist believes that they must achieve perfect clarity before they can take action. They sit in the dark, trying to imagine every twist and turn of the path ahead, but this is an impossible task. You cannot think your way out of a fog. The practitioner understands that clarity is not the predecessor of action, it is the consequence of action. The only way to clear the fog is to take a step forward. When you take that first, small, imperfect step, the world gives you immediate feedback. You learn what works and what doesn't. The path ahead becomes visible, not by thinking about it, but by walking it. If you want to start a business, you can spend years writing the perfect business plan, or you can spend one day talking to a potential customer. Which do you think will give you more clarity? If you want to write a book, you can spend months outlining every chapter, or you can write the first terrible, clumsy paragraph. Which act will teach you more about the book you are actually trying to write? Do not wait for clarity. Act to create it. Your first actions will likely be flawed. They will be inefficient. They may even be wrong. But they will provide you with more valuable, real-world data than a lifetime of passive analysis ever could. The second function is that action is the creator of momentum. Think of a massive, heavy locomotive sitting stationary on the tracks. The initial effort required to make that first inch of movement is immense. It takes a tremendous, focused application of energy to overcome the raw power of inertia. This is why most people never start. They look at the sheer size of their goal, the stationary locomotive, and they are paralyzed by the perceived effort required to get it moving. But the practitioner understands the physics of progress. They know that all their energy must be focused on that one single objective: make the first move. They are not thinking about the 1,000-mile journey ahead. They are obsessed with that first difficult, grinding inch. Because once the locomotive moves that first inch, the second inch requires less energy, and the third even less. Once the great wheels are turning, even slowly, the train has acquired momentum, and a body in motion tends to stay in motion. Action creates momentum. The more you act, the easier it becomes to continue acting. The small, consistent, daily actions are what get the great train of your ambition moving. The theorist is forever staring at the stationary train, waiting for the perfect conditions. The practitioner is on the ground, putting all their weight into that first crucial push. The third and most profound function is that action is the sculptor of identity. As we have discussed, you are not born with a fixed identity. Your identity is a story your brain tells itself based on the evidence you provided. And the most compelling evidence of all is your own behavior. When you live the life of the theorist, the life of excuses, you are providing your brain with daily evidence that you are a person who hesitates, who procrastinates, who is not to be trusted to follow through. Your identity solidifies into that of a dreamer, not a doer. But when you embrace the philosophy of action, you begin to provide a new stream of evidence. When you choose to do the difficult work instead of making an excuse, you cast a vote for a new identity. You are telling your brain, I am the kind of person who shows up. When you take that first imperfect step into the unknown, you are casting a vote for the identity of a courageous person. Action is the chisel. Your identity is the stone. With every deliberate, conscious act, you are chipping away at the old identity of the waiter, the wisher, the talker, and you are revealing the new identity of the creator, the sovereign, the rescuer. You do not think your way into a new way of acting. You act your way into a new way of thinking. You act your way into a new identity. So, this is the philosophy. But how does one practice it? How do we build the habit of action into our very being? It is done by embracing three principles of effective action. The first is the principle of the decisive first step. As we discussed with the locomotive, the battle is almost always won or lost at the very beginning. The art of action is the art of starting. Therefore, you must become a master of the small, decisive, immediate first step. Break down your monumental goals into the smallest possible unit of action and then execute that unit without hesitation. Your goal is not to write the book. Your goal is to write one sentence now. Your goal is not to build a business. Your goal is to send one email now. By shrinking the action, you shrink the fear and the resistance associated with it. The second is the principle of imperfect action. The theorist is a perfectionist. Perfectionism is one of the most insidious and cleverly disguised excuses of them all. It masquerades as a commitment to high standards, but in reality, it is a deep-seated fear of being judged. The perfectionist waits for the flawless plan, the perfect draft, the risk-free opportunity. And so they wait forever. The practitioner embraces imperfect action. They understand that a flawed action taken today is infinitely more valuable than a perfect action plan for tomorrow. They are willing to put something out into the world that is 80% perfect, because they know that the feedback they get from that 80% version will be the very thing that allows them to get to 100%. Stop waiting to be great. Start, and let the process of starting make you great. The third is the principle of process over outcome. The practitioner falls in love with the work itself, not just the potential reward. They become a craftsman. They find a deep sense of satisfaction in the daily act of showing up, of pushing the rock, of writing the page. When you are attached only to the outcome, your emotional state is a roller coaster. If things are going well, you feel great. If you have a setback, you are devastated. But when you are committed to the process, you develop an unshakable inner stability. You know that if you simply show up and honor the process day in and day out, the outcomes will eventually take care of themselves. Your job is not to control the harvest. Your job is to diligently plant the seeds every single day. This is the path. This is the philosophy of action. It is the bridge between the world of your thoughts and the world of your results. It is the conscious decision to stop being a commentator on the game of life and to get onto the field and start playing. The world is full of brilliant commentators. It is full of theorists and critics and armchair generals. What the world is starved of is practitioners, people who are willing to roll up their sleeves and do the hard, messy, imperfect, and glorious work of creation. The excuses will always be there. They will be seductive. They will be logical. They will be comforting. Your job is to recognize them, to thank them for trying to keep you safe, and to act anyway. Your life is not a dress rehearsal. The time for practice is over. The curtain is up. It is time to act. We have now arrived at the very heart of the practitioner's world. We have made the pivotal decision to abandon the comfortable life of the theorist and to embrace the challenging, chaotic, and ultimately rewarding life of action. We have committed to being the person who does the work, who takes the next step, who understands that clarity is a consequence of movement, not a prerequisite for it. But the very moment you step onto this path, the moment you commit to a life of decisive, relentless action, you will cast a shadow that has followed every ambitious soul since the dawn of time. It is a constant companion on the road to achievement, a cold whisper in the ear of every creator, every explorer, and every sovereign ruler. This shadow is doubt. Doubt is the price you pay for ambition. The person with no goals, no vision, and no desire to grow is untroubled by doubt. They are safe in the prison of their certainty. But the moment you declare your intention to become more, to build something new, to rescue yourself from mediocrity, doubt will rise to meet you. It is the internal friction that is generated by the engine of your own growth. Therefore, our next discipline is not about finding a magical way to eliminate doubt forever. Such a thing does not exist. Instead, it is about understanding the nature of this shadow, and in understanding it, learning to render it powerless. This is the fifth discipline, the antidote to doubt. Let us first conduct an autopsy of this shadow. What is doubt really? It is not a fact. It is not an external reality. Doubt is a feeling born from a story that you are telling yourself. It is a form of internal resistance, a psychological immune system designed to protect you from the perceived dangers of failure and rejection. It is the voice of the ancient, well-meaning security guard we spoke of earlier, screaming at you to get back inside the safety of the walls. Doubt is a hydra, a mythical beast with many heads. But if we are to defeat it, we must understand its three primary forms. The first head of the hydra is doubt in the self. This is the insidious whisper of the imposter. It is the voice that says, who are you to do this? You're not smart enough. You're not talented enough. You don't have the right background. You are going to be exposed as a fraud. This form of doubt attacks your identity. It seeks to convince you that you are fundamentally inadequate for the task at hand. The second head of the hydra is doubt in the path. This is the doubt of the strategist. It is the voice that says, is this the right plan? What if I'm wasting my time on the wrong strategy? Maybe there's a better, faster, easier way. What if I make a wrong turn and can't get back? This form of doubt attacks your clarity. It seeks to paralyze you in a state of endless analysis, always searching for the perfect, risk-free path that does not exist. The third head of the hydra is doubt in the outcome. This is the doubt of the pessimist. It is the voice that says, this will probably never work anyway. The odds are stacked against you. The market is too competitive. Most people who try this fail, so why would you be any different? This form of doubt attacks your hope. It seeks to convince you that your efforts are ultimately futile, so you might as well not even begin. Doubt in the self, doubt in the path, and doubt in the outcome. These three heads work in concert to keep you frozen, to keep you safe in the harbor of inaction. So what is our typical response to this beast? We attempt to fight it on its own terms. We try to reason with it. When we feel doubt in ourselves, we try to argue with it using affirmations. I am confident. I am capable. When we feel doubt in the path, we seek more information, reading another book or watching another video, hoping to find the perfect strategy that will silence our uncertainty. When we feel doubt in the outcome, we seek reassurance from others, hoping they will tell us that everything will be okay. And it almost never works. Why? Because you cannot fight a shadow with a shadow. You cannot defeat an emotional argument with a logical one. You are trying to fight the hydra in its own territory, the swampy, ethereal realm of your own mind. But that is where it is strongest. The great secret, the profound and liberating truth, is that you do not defeat doubt by arguing with it. You defeat doubt by making it irrelevant. You do not fight the darkness, you turn on the light. The light, the universal antidote to the poison of doubt, is the discipline we have just discussed, action. Action is the only antidote. Let me repeat that. Action is the only antidote. It is the one substance that is toxic to the very nature of doubt. Let us explore the alchemy of this antidote. How does the simple act of taking action perform this magical feat of dissolving the beast of doubt? It works in three powerful ways. First, action is the great silencer. Doubt, as we have established, is a story being told in your mind. It is a form of internal chatter. It is noise. Focused physical action has a remarkable way of quieting this internal noise. You cannot be fully engrossed in the physical act of writing a paragraph, of making a sales call, of performing a set of squats, and simultaneously be lost in a complex, fearful narrative about your own inadequacy. The mind cannot hold 2 points of intense focus at once. When you are passive, when you are merely thinking, the mind is free to wander into the dark forests of self-doubt. But when you engage your body, when you commit to a present moment, physical action, you force the mind to come along for the ride. You anchor your consciousness in the reality of the present moment, and in the present moment, the fearful fantasies of the future cannot survive. The simple act of starting silences the chatter. Second, and most profoundly, action is the creator of evidence. Your subconscious mind, as we have said, is not a philosopher, it is an accountant. It believes in the cold, hard data of your own behavior. Doubt is an unsubstantiated claim. It is an accusation with no evidence. Your job is not to argue with the accusation, but to produce a mountain of countervailing evidence so large that the accusation becomes absurd. Every action you take is a factual entry in the ledger of your own competence. When the head of self-doubt whispers, "You're not a writer," and you write 1 page, that page is a piece of evidence. It is a fact. The page exists. The accountant in your mind makes a note. Claim of being a non-writer is contradicted by today's evidence. When the head of path doubt whispers, "This strategy will never work," and you make 1 sales call and get 1 piece of feedback, that feedback is evidence, it is data. The accountant notes, claim of strategic failure is unproven, data is being collected. You do not defeat doubt with a single heroic act. You bury it slowly, methodically, under an avalanche of small, daily, undeniable proofs. You are building a case for your own competence, and your actions are the only exhibits that matter in the courtroom of your own mind. Third, action is the engine of compounding confidence. Confidence is not something you are born with. It is a result. It is the byproduct of a history of keeping promises to yourself and of successfully navigating challenges. Every time you act in the face of doubt, you prove to yourself that you are the kind of person who can handle uncertainty. You prove to yourself that your commitment is stronger than your comfort. This creates a powerful feedback loop. You take a small action. This creates a small piece of evidence. This small piece of evidence gives you a slightly larger dose of confidence. This larger dose of confidence allows you to take a slightly larger action. This larger action creates more compelling evidence, which in turn generates even more confidence. This is the principle of compounding confidence. It is the slow, steady, upward spiral that is the direct opposite of the downward spiral of doubt and inaction. Your confidence is a direct reflection of your demonstrated history of action. So, this is the philosophy. The antidote to doubt is not a better thought, but a decisive action. But how do we practice this? Especially on the days when the hydra of doubt feels overwhelmingly strong. We use a practitioner's toolkit. The first tool in the kit is the weapon of the smallest possible action. When you are paralyzed by doubt, it is usually because the action you are contemplating feels too big. Write a book is an intimidating task that invites doubt, but what is the smallest possible action? Open the laptop. Can you do that? Yes. What's the next smallest action? Open the document. Can you do that? Yes. Write 1 sentence. By shrinking the action down to a size that is almost laughably small, you make it impossible for doubt to gain a foothold. Doubt cannot argue with an action as simple as opening a document. You use these tiny, undeniable actions to build the initial momentum. The second tool is the shield of process. Doubt in the outcome is one of the most powerful paralyzing forces. What if this doesn't work? The way you shield yourself from this is by detaching from the outcome and falling in love with the process. Your job today is not to build a successful business. Your job today is to make 5 sales calls. Your job today is not to get in perfect shape. Your job today is to complete your 30-minute workout. You define success not by the external result, which you cannot fully control, but by your adherence to the process, which you can absolutely control. When you can end your day and say, I did the work I committed to doing, you have won, regardless of the immediate outcome. This shield protects your confidence from the inevitable ups and downs of any ambitious journey. The third tool is the armor of data. This is how you handle the doubt in your path. You must stop seeing the results of your actions as success or failure. These are emotionally loaded judgmental terms. Instead, you must see all results as simply data and never for me. If you launch a product and no one buys it, that is not a failure. That is data. The data is telling you that your marketing message was wrong, or your price was wrong, or your product wasn't needed. This data is priceless. It is the universe giving you a free education on what to do next. The practitioner is a scientist. They run experiments. They gather data. They adjust their hypothesis, and they run the next experiment. A scientist is never afraid of data. They welcome it, because it is the only thing that leads them closer to the truth. This is the discipline. This is the antidote. You recognize that doubt is a story. You starve that story of your attention. And you relentlessly feed a new story, the story of your competence, your resilience, and your commitment with the undeniable food of your daily, consistent, and courageous actions. The shadow of doubt will always be there as long as you continue to walk the path of growth. But you no longer need to fear it. You no longer need to be its prisoner. You have the antidote. It is in your hands. It is in your feet. It is in the very next small, decisive step that you are about to take. We have now journeyed through the first 5 realizations. We have claimed our sovereignty, forged our discipline, curated our attention, embraced action, and found the potent antidote to our own internal doubt. We have built the essential foundation of the rescuer. If this philosophy, this way of looking at the world, is resonating with you, I want you to know that this is just the beginning of the architectural work. The next 5 disciplines will build upon this foundation, taking us deeper into the art of shaping our reality. To ensure you do not miss the second half of this blueprint, I invite you now to take a brief moment to subscribe to this channel and turn on notifications. It is a small act, but it is a declaration to yourself that you are committed to this journey of becoming the architect of your own life. Now, let us continue the work. We have now journeyed deep into the internal landscape of the sovereign self. We have laid the foundation of belief, taken up the author's pen, forged the scepter of discipline, embraced the philosophy of action, and discovered the potent antidote to the poison of doubt. We have done the essential internal work required to begin the rescue mission. But a rescuer, no matter how skilled or determined, cannot succeed if they are operating in a hostile territory that constantly sabotages their efforts. A master gardener cannot cultivate a magnificent garden on toxic soil. A powerful ship cannot reach its destination if it is constantly sailing through corrosive waters that eat away at its hull. After you have begun to master the enemy within, you must turn your strategic gaze to the world around you. You must understand that you are not an island separate from the world. You are a living, breathing organism, constantly in exchange with the environment you inhabit. The air you breathe, the water you drink, the company you keep, these things are not separate from you. They become a part of you. This brings us to our 6th and perhaps most socially challenging discipline. It is the discipline of understanding that you are not just the architect of your inner world, but also the architect of your external world. This is the architecture of your environment. The single greatest predictor of your future success, your level of happiness, and your ability to grow is the quality of the environment in which you choose to immerse yourself. For a long time, we have held on to the romantic idea of the lone genius, the rugged individual who succeeds in spite of their surroundings. But this is a profound myth. The truth is, your environment is the invisible ocean you swim in. It shapes your thoughts, normalizes your behaviors, and either nourishes your potential or starves it. You cannot see the water when you are swimming in it, but it is affecting your every move. It is either supporting you, making it easy to glide forward, or it is a thick, muddy sludge, creating a constant drag that makes every small movement an exhausting struggle. The undisciplined person is a passive inhabitant of their environment. They accept the water they are born into. They swim in whatever currents they find themselves in. The sovereign ruler understands that their environment is not a fixed reality to be endured, but a dynamic creation to be designed. They are not just the swimmer, they are the architect of the entire aquatic ecosystem. Your environment consists of three fundamental dimensions. To become a master architect, you must take conscious and deliberate control of all three. The first and most powerful dimension is your social environment. This is the company you keep. There is an old saying, you are the average of the 5 people you spend the most time with. This is not a quaint piece of folk wisdom. It is a profound law of human nature. Your social circle functions as a powerful external thermostat, constantly influencing your own internal setting. If you surround yourself with people whose thermostat is set to a low temperature, a temperature of complaint, of cynicism, of mediocrity, their cold air will constantly be working to lower your own. Let us dissect the 2 types of people you will encounter. First, there are the complainers. The complainer is a person who has embraced the victim mindset. They see the world as a series of problems, and they are not interested in solutions. Their primary goal in any conversation is to receive validation for their own powerlessness. They are what we call energy vampires. They feed on your attention and your sympathy, and they leave you feeling drained, pessimistic, and heavy. To spend significant time with a complainer is to allow a slow, steady leak in your own treasury of energy. Even more dangerous is the cynic. The cynic is often intelligent and witty, which makes their poison all the more seductive. The cynic does not believe that success is possible, or if it is, that it is only for the lucky or the corrupt. When you share a new goal or an ambitious idea with a cynic, they will not attack it directly. They will subtly undermine it with a sarcastic remark, a cautionary tale, or a sophisticated argument for why it will probably fail. The cynic does not want you to succeed, because your success would be a direct invalidation of their entire worldview. Your triumph would be a painful mirror to their own inaction. To be the architect of your social environment, you must make the courageous and sometimes painful decision to prune your social tree. This is not about being cruel or arrogant. It is about being a loving and responsible protector of your own potential. You must reduce your exposure to the complainers and the cynics. You may not be able to cut them out of your life entirely, especially if they are family, but you can absolutely control the duration and the depth of your interactions. You refuse to engage in the complaint. You refuse to be drawn into the cynical debate. You protect your energy. And once you have cleared this space, you must then engage in the art of addition. You must actively seek out the winners, the creators, the thermostats. These are the people who are living at the temperature you aspire to. They are not complaining about problems, they are building solutions. They are not cynical about the future, they are creating it. When you are in the presence of these people, their high standards become your new normal. Their belief in possibility becomes contagious. Their focus on action inspires your own. You do not have to ask them for motivation. Their very existence is a call to a higher level of being. You must actively seek out these people, join the mastermind group, go to the industry event, find a mentor. Build a circle of allies who will not just support you, but who will challenge you, who will hold you accountable, and who will refuse to let you settle for less than you are capable of. The second dimension is your informational environment. This is the world of inputs you allow into your mind. As we discussed in the discipline of curation, your thoughts are the seeds from which your reality grows. And those seeds are largely planted by the information you consume. You must think of yourself as building the library of your mind. What books are you choosing to place on its shelves? Is your library filled with the junk mail of the digital age, the fleeting outrage, the celebrity gossip, the endless stream of trivialities? Or is it a curated collection of the greatest ideas, the deepest wisdom, and the most practical knowledge available? The passive person allows their informational environment to be designed by algorithms whose only goal is to keep them addicted. The sovereign architect takes conscious control. They perform an informational detox. They go on a low-information diet, cutting out the junk news and the mindless scrolling. They unsubscribe, they unfollow, they mute. They create a space of silence. And into that silence, they deliberately and intentionally invite quality. They choose the books they read. They choose the podcasts they listen to. They choose the skills they study. They understand that every piece of information they consume is a building block. You cannot build a palace of a mind with the intellectual equivalent of sawdust and scrap metal. You must build it with the marble and oak of timeless wisdom and powerful ideas. The third dimension is your physical environment. Your external space is a direct reflection of your internal state. A cluttered desk, a disorganized room, a chaotic workspace, these things are not just aesthetically unpleasing. They are a constant, low-level drain on your cognitive resources. They create a subtle hum of chaos and overwhelm that makes deep, focused work incredibly difficult. The sovereign architect understands the power of a sacred space. You must design a physical environment that supports the person you are determined to become. This does not require wealth, it requires intention. Your primary workspace, whether it is a corner of your bedroom or a large office, must be treated as a temple to your ambition. It must be clean. It must be organized. It must be free of distractions. It should be a space that when you enter it, signals to your mind that it is time to do the important work. You curate what is in your line of sight. You surround yourself with the tools of your trade and the symbols of your aspiration. You create an environment that makes it easy to do the things you need to do and difficult to do the things you shouldn't. If you want to build a habit of reading, you place a book on your pillow. If you want to stop wasting time on your phone, you put it in another room when you work. This is not a trivial matter. The conscious design of your physical environment is one of the most powerful ways to support the formation of the new habits and the new identity you are building. You are creating a fortress of focus, a sanctuary for your own becoming. This is the work of the architect of the environment. It requires 3 courageous acts. The first is the honest audit, where you look unflinchingly at the current state of your social, informational, and physical worlds. The second is the art of subtraction, where you have the courage to prune, to detox, to let go of the influences that are holding you back. And the third is the art of addition, where you intentionally seek out and install the people, the ideas, and the spaces that will elevate you. When you master this discipline, you create a powerful tailwind for your life. Instead of constantly fighting against the current of a negative environment, you begin to be pulled forward by the powerful current of a positive one. Your growth accelerates. Your resilience increases. Your journey is still challenging, but it is no longer an uphill battle fought alone in a hostile land. You have built a fortress. You have curated a court of wise advisors. You have constructed a library of wisdom. You have designed a sanctuary for your work. You have become the master architect of your own world. And from within the safety and power of this well-designed environment, you are now truly free to create. We have now completed the essential external work of the sovereign ruler. We have become the master architect of our own environment. We have made the courageous choices to prune the toxic influences, to curate our informational diet, and to design a physical space that supports our highest ambitions. We have, in effect, built a fortress of focus and positivity around ourselves. This fortress is not built for the purpose of hiding from the world. It is built for the purpose of creating a safe and stable platform from which to do the most difficult and rewarding work of all, the work on ourselves. With the external chaos minimized, with a supportive environment in place, we no longer have any excuses to avoid turning our gaze inward. We now have the strength and the stability to confront the most challenging territory of all, our own perceived limitations. This brings us to our 7th discipline, a profound reframing that will transform your relationship with personal growth. This is the discipline of understanding the utility of weakness. In our society, we are taught to think of weakness as a source of shame. A weakness is a flaw, a deficiency, a permanent stain on our character. It is a verdict that has been passed upon us, a life sentence that limits what we can achieve. I am not a confident person. I am not a disciplined person. I am a procrastinator. We say these things as if they are unchangeable laws of our own nature. And so, We develop two flawed strategies for dealing with our weaknesses. The first strategy is to hide them. We construct elaborate masks and personas to conceal the parts of ourselves we deem inadequate. We avoid situations that might expose our flaws. We live in a constant, low-level state of anxiety, terrified of being found out. The second strategy is to simply surrender to them. We accept our weaknesses as our fixed reality. We use them as excuses for our inaction. I would start a business, but I'm just not good with people. I would get in shape, but I'm just not a disciplined person. We allow our weaknesses to become the walls of our own self-imposed prison. I am here today to tell you that both of these strategies are built upon a fundamental lie. A weakness is not a verdict. It is not a life sentence. It is not a permanent flaw in your character. A weakness is simply undeveloped strength. It is raw material. It is potential in its most nascent and unrefined form. Think of a master blacksmith. The blacksmith is given a lump of crude, dark, shapeless iron ore. A novice would look at this lump and see it for what it is, a heavy, useless rock. But the master blacksmith sees something entirely different. They do not see the rock. They see the sword that is sleeping inside the rock. They see the potential. They understand that this crude, unimpressive raw material, when subjected to the transformative process of the forge, to the fire, to the pressure, to the relentless, skillful strike of the hammer, can be turned into a weapon of incredible strength, beauty, and utility. Your weaknesses are that lump of iron ore. They are not a source of shame. They are a source of incredible opportunity. The very areas where you feel most deficient are the very areas that hold the greatest potential for your growth. The process of personal transformation is the art of becoming your own master blacksmith, and your weaknesses are the raw material for your greatest creations. This is the alchemy of personal growth. So how do we begin this alchemical process? How do we build our own internal forge and begin to shape this raw material? The process is one of courage and strategy, and it consists of 4 distinct stages. The first stage is fearless identification. You cannot forge a piece of iron that you pretend does not exist. You must be willing to conduct a brutally honest and fearless audit of yourself. This is not an exercise in self-criticism or judgment. It is a strategic assessment, like a general surveying their own territory to identify its unfortified positions. You must be willing to sit down in quiet solitude and ask yourself the hard questions. Where am I consistently failing to get the results I want in my life? What feedback do I keep receiving from others? What situations do I consistently avoid out of fear or discomfort? What stories of limitation do I tell myself? Be specific. It is not enough to say, I lack confidence. That is too vague. Where, specifically, does your confidence fail you? Is it in public speaking? Is it in negotiating your salary? Is it in social situations? You must identify the specific, observable behaviors and mindsets that are holding you back. This fearless identification is the act of dragging the raw iron ore out of the dark mind and into the light of the forge. The second stage is strategic deconstruction. Once you have identified a weakness, you must understand that it is rarely a single monolithic flaw. It is almost always a bundle of smaller, interconnected components. You must deconstruct the weakness into its constituent parts. Let us take the common weakness of procrastination. The master blacksmith does not just see a lump of iron, they analyze its composition. Procrastination is not a single thing. It is a combination of other elements. It might be a fear of failure. It might be a lack of clarity about the next step. It might be poor time management skills. It might be the habit of seeking short-term comfort over long-term fulfillment. By deconstructing the weakness, you demystify it. You transform a single, overwhelming monster into a series of smaller, manageable problems to be solved. You are no longer fighting the vague dragon of procrastination. You are now developing a strategy to fight the small lizards of fear, of unclear goals, and of poor scheduling. This is the act of creating a blueprint for the sword you intend to forge. The third stage is deliberate practice. This is the fire and the hammer. This is the heart of the forge. This is where the transformation actually occurs. You cannot think your way out of a weakness. You must act your way out of it. If your weakness is public speaking, you must speak in public. You start small, perhaps by asking a question in a meeting, and you progressively increase the difficulty. If your weakness is discipline, you must practice discipline in small, daily acts as we have discussed. You build the muscle. This practice must be deliberate. It must be focused. It must be consistent. And most importantly, it must be uncomfortable. The fire of the forge must be hot enough to make the iron malleable. The hammer strikes must be forceful enough to shape the metal. Your practice must take you to the edge of your current abilities. This is the productive pain of growth. It is the feeling of the weakness beginning to bend and reshape under the force of your will. This is the hard, unglamorous, and glorious work of the blacksmith. The fourth and final stage is the feedback loop. After the blacksmith has heated and hammered the metal, they must quench it. They plunge the hot steel into water, a process that rapidly cools and hardens it, locking in its new structure. Feedback is the water that quenches and hardens your new strength. After you have deliberately practiced, after you have given the speech or completed the disciplined task, you must seek out and integrate feedback. How did it go? What worked? What didn't? What could I do differently next time? This feedback can come from a mentor, from the results you get, or from your own honest self-reflection. Without this quenching process of feedback, your new skills will remain soft and unreliable. The feedback, both positive and negative, is what tempers your weakness into a resilient and durable strength. This is the alchemical process: fearless identification, strategic deconstruction, deliberate practice, and the feedback loop. This is how you take any weakness and methodically transform it. Consider the common weakness of a fear of rejection. The raw material here is a deep sensitivity to the opinions of others. The undisciplined person allows this to become a prison of people-pleasing. But the alchemist sees the potential. They take this sensitivity and, through the forge of deliberate practice, by intentionally facing small, controlled risks of rejection, they transform it. The fear of rejection is hammered and shaped until it becomes the beautiful, resilient sword of empathy, of persuasive influence, of the ability to connect deeply with others because you understand their emotional world. Consider the weakness of impatience. The raw material is a burning desire for results. The undisciplined person allows this to become a source of constant frustration and rash, poorly thought out decisions. But the alchemist takes this fire of impatience and places it in the forge of discipline. They hammer it with the practice of focusing on the process, not just the outcome. And they transform that raw, chaotic impatience into the focused, powerful, and relentless energy of a sense of urgency. This is the utility of weakness. Your weaknesses are not your shame, they are your assignment. They are a personalized curriculum for your own evolution. The universe has given you these specific lumps of iron ore because it is inviting you to become a master blacksmith. The journey of the rescuer, the sovereign, is not a journey of pretending to be flawless. It is the journey of a craftsman who has the courage to acknowledge their raw materials as they are and the discipline to engage in the daily, fiery, and transformative work of forging them into a life of strength, of purpose, and of undeniable utility. Look at your weaknesses. Do not look at them with despair. Look at them with the eyes of an alchemist. See not the lump of iron. See the sword sleeping within. And then pick up your hammer and begin the work. We have now stood together in the heart of the alchemist's forge. We have made the courageous decision to confront our own perceived limitations, to see our weaknesses not as a source of shame, but as the raw, unrefined iron ore of our potential. We have committed to the fiery, difficult, and transformative work of the blacksmith, the process of hammering and shaping our weaknesses into our greatest strengths. But there is a crucial, unavoidable reality of the forge that we must now address. The blacksmith, in the process of creating a masterwork sword, will make many mistakes. They will overheat the metal. They will strike a clumsy blow. They will create imperfections that must be hammered out. In the pursuit of shaping the raw material of the self, the process is not one of clean, uninterrupted progress. The path of growth is littered with the scraps of discarded attempts, with the beautiful, necessary, and powerful debris of failure. This brings us to our eighth discipline. It is a discipline that will require you to transform your relationship with the one thing society has taught you to fear and avoid at all costs. To become the sovereign of your own life, you must not only be willing to fail, you must become a master student of it. You must enroll with full commitment in the most prestigious and challenging institution of higher learning in the world. This is the discipline of the University of Failure. From our earliest days, we are taught to see failure as a final verdict. In school, we receive a failing grade, a red mark that signals an end. In society, a failed business or a failed relationship is spoken of in hushed, somber tones as if it is a death. We have been conditioned to believe that failure is the opposite of success, and so we build our lives around the avoidance of it. This fear of failure becomes the silent, invisible architect of a small life. We choose the safe path over the ambitious one. We remain silent in the meeting rather than risk saying something foolish. We stay in the comfortable but unfulfilling job rather than risk the uncertainty of a new venture. We live our lives in what I call the prison of perfectionism. The person in the prison of perfectionism believes that they must have a flawless, guaranteed plan before they can take action. They are terrified of making a mistake, of looking foolish, of having to admit they were wrong. And so they spend their lives in a state of paralysis, their potential locked away in the solitary confinement of their own fear. They do not fail, it is true, but they do not live either. I am here today to offer you a different institution in which to enroll your spirit. It is not a prison, it is a university. And in this university, failure is not a final grade, it is the entire curriculum. It is not the opposite of success, it is the primary prerequisite for it. Every significant achievement in the history of humanity, in every field of endeavor, is the result of a long and intimate education at the University of Failure. The first step to enrolling is to understand the nature of this institution. Its tuition is paid not in money, but in the currency of your own ego and your willingness to be a beginner. Its classrooms are the real world, and its lessons are delivered not through lectures, but through direct, unvarnished, and often painful experience. The curriculum at the University of Failure is rigorous, but it offers the most valuable courses a human being can ever take. The first course, a mandatory prerequisite for all others, is humility, 101. Failure is the great equalizer. It is the single most effective antidote to arrogance and hubris. It teaches you, in no uncertain terms, that your plans are not perfect, that your assumptions are often flawed, and that you do not have all the answers. It forces you to bow to the raw reality of the world. The humility learned from a significant failure is what opens the mind to new ideas, to feedback, and to the possibility of a different path. A person who has never failed is a person who has never truly been humbled, and a person who has never been humbled is a person who has stopped learning. The next course in the curriculum is Resilience, 201. Your resilience is like a muscle. It can only grow stronger when it is subjected to resistance. Every time you fail, every time you are knocked down, you are presented with a choice to stay down or to get back up. Every single time you choose to get back up, to dust yourself off, to learn the lesson and to take the next step, you are completing one more repetition in the workout of your own resilience. A person who has avoided failure their whole life has an atrophied, undeveloped muscle of resilience. The first significant setback shatters them. But a person who is a seasoned student at the University of Failure has, through countless repetitions, built a deep, powerful, and unshakable inner strength. They are not afraid of being knocked down because they have a profound, evidence-based confidence in their own ability to get back up. The third, and perhaps most surprising course, is Creativity, 301. Comfort and success are often the enemies of innovation. When a plan is working perfectly, there is no incentive to find a better way. But failure is a powerful catalyst for creativity. Failure is the universe's way of telling you with absolute clarity, this approach is not working. It slams a door in your face, and in doing so, it forces you to find a window. It forces you to abandon your old flawed assumptions and to look at the problem from a completely new perspective. It is in the aftermath of failure that the most brilliant and innovative solutions are often born. It forces you to ask more intelligent questions. It demands that you become more resourceful, more adaptable, and more creative. Success can make you complacent. Failure demands that you evolve. And finally, there is the advanced course, Data Analysis 401. The master student of this university learns to see failure not as an emotional event, but as a pure and priceless stream of data. A failed business launch is not a personal tragedy. It is the most honest and accurate market research you could ever hope for. It is the market telling you for free what it does not want. A rejected proposal is not a personal insult. It is data telling you that your message was not clear or your value proposition was not compelling. The creator, the sovereign, learns to become a dispassionate scientist in the laboratory of their own life. Their actions are the experiments. The failures are the data. They are not emotionally attached to the outcome of any single experiment. They are only attached to the learning. They look at the data of their failures with a cool, strategic eye and ask, what is this teaching me? This ability to separate your ego from the outcome and to see failure as pure, unfiltered information is the hallmark of a master. So, this is the curriculum. But how does one become a good student? How do you ensure that you are extracting the maximum value from the tuition you are paying? You do so by adopting 3 core practices. The first practice is radical ownership. When a failure occurs, the undisciplined mind immediately looks for someone or something to blame. The economy, the unfair competitor, the unsupportive partner. As we have discussed, blame is the abdication of power. The master student of failure does the opposite. They take immediate and absolute ownership. They start from the premise, this outcome is the result of my strategy and my actions, therefore I have the power to change it. They do not waste a single moment of precious energy on blame. All of their focus goes into the post-mortem. What did I do? What did I think? What did I miss that contributed to this outcome? Ownership is the prerequisite for learning. The second practice is the after-action review. This is a structured clinical process for dissecting a failure. After any significant setback, you must sit down and ask yourself 4 simple questions. 1, what was my intended outcome? 2, what was the actual outcome? 3, what caused the difference between the 2? Be brutally honest here. Was it a flawed assumption, a lack of preparation, a failure of execution? 4, what will I do differently next time? This simple 4-question process transforms a painful, emotional failure into a structured, strategic lesson plan. The third practice is the pursuit of intelligent failure. Not all failures are created equal. A stupid failure is making the same mistake over and over again because you have refused to learn the lesson. An intelligent failure is a new and interesting mistake that occurs when you are operating at the very edge of your abilities. You must be willing to look foolish. You must be willing to be a beginner. The master student is always pushing the envelope, always experimenting, always risking these intelligent failures because they know that this is where all true innovation and growth occurs. You should not seek to avoid failure. You should seek to fail in more interesting and intelligent ways tomorrow than you did today. This is the path. This is the great and challenging curriculum of the University of Failure. It is an institution where the entrance requirement is courage, where the tuition is your ego, and where the diploma is a profound and unshakable wisdom. The person who graduates from this university is a different kind of human being. They do not fear the unknown, for they have learned that they can handle any outcome. They are not brittle, they are resilient. They are not rigid, they are creative. They move through life with a quiet confidence that is not born from an unbroken string of successes, but from a long and intimate history of having failed, having learned, and having risen again, stronger than before. So I invite you to change your registration, withdraw from the prison of perfectionism today, stop living a small life in the service of avoiding mistakes, and enroll with your full heart and a courageous spirit in the University of Failure. Embrace your setbacks. Own your mistakes. Dissect your defeats. For it is in these difficult, hallowed classrooms that the real education of a sovereign life takes place. It is here that the rescuer is truly forged. We have now walked together through the fiery and transformative curriculum of the University of Failure. We have learned to see our setbacks not as verdicts, but as lessons. We have come to understand that our mistakes are not a source of shame, but the very tuition we pay for our most valuable education. We have graduated from the prison of perfectionism and have become seasoned, resilient students of our own growth. But this profound education leaves us with a critical navigational challenge. The process of failing, of learning, of rising again, has the effect of burning our old, flawed maps. The rigid, predictable plans we once had for our lives are often revealed to be useless in the face of real-world territory. We are left, often, in a state of profound uncertainty, standing at a crossroads. We have the strength, we have the resilience, but we must now ask, which way do I go? In this moment, when the external maps are gone, we are forced to discover a far more ancient and reliable navigational instrument. This is the moment we learn to stop looking at the paper in our hands and start looking at the instrument within our own soul. This brings us to our ninth discipline, the one that provides guidance in the midst of chaos and clarity in the face of uncertainty. This is the discipline of learning to trust and navigate by the internal compass. Every human being is faced with a fundamental choice in how they navigate their life. There are only two instruments available. The vast majority of people choose to navigate by what I call the weather vane. A weather vane is an instrument of reaction. It has no direction of its own. It simply, passively points in the direction of the prevailing wind. If the wind of public opinion blows east, the weather vane points east. If the wind of social media trends blows west, the weather vane dutifully swivels to point west. The person living the life of the weather vane is in a constant state of external orientation. Their decisions are based on what is popular, what is safe, what is approved of by the crowd. They ask, what are other people doing? What do my parents think I should do? What does my society deem to be a successful life? They are perpetually adjusting their sails to catch a wind that is not of their own making, hoping it will blow them to a desirable shore. But the wind is fickle. It changes without warning. And so, the life of the weather vane is a life of chaotic, reactive, and often circular travel, ending up in a place they never consciously chose to be. But there is another instrument. It is an instrument that is not concerned with the shifting winds of the external world. It is an instrument that is tuned to a force that is constant, true, and deep within the very fabric of your own being. This instrument is the internal compass. Unlike the weather vane, the compass does not react to the wind. It is aligned with a fixed, invisible, and powerful force, the magnetic north of your own truth. The wind may howl from the east, the storms may rage from the west, the crowd may be stampeding to the south, but the compass needle remains steady, pointing true north. The life of the compass is a life of intention. It is a life of integrity. It is the life of the sovereign who understands that true direction comes not from the noisy chaos of the external world, but from the quiet, steady pull of their own internal guidance system. Your work is to stop navigating by the flimsy, reactive weather vane of other people's opinions and to start navigating by the strong, true, and unshakable compass of your own soul. So, what is this internal compass? It is not a mystical or magical device. It is a practical and reliable tool, and it is composed of three essential parts. The first part is the magnetic north of your values. Your core values are the fundamental, non-negotiable principles that define who you are at your deepest level. These are principles like integrity, freedom, growth, contribution, or love. They are the true north of your character. They are the fixed point in the universe around which your entire life should orient. If you are not crystal clear on what your top 3 or 4 core values are, you are navigating without a north. Your compass has no magnetic force to align with. The first act of calibrating your compass is to engage in the deep, reflective work of defining your own personal constitution. What are the principles you would be unwilling to violate, even if it cost you a great deal? That is your true north. The second part is the dial of your vision. Your values provide the direction, But your vision provides the destination. Your vision, the plot of your story that we defined in the second discipline, is the dial of the compass that you can consciously see. You can say, my true north is contribution. And the specific destination I am setting on my dial today is to build a business that solves this particular problem for people. Your vision gives your values a specific mission. It translates the timeless principle of your why into the timely objective of your what. Without a clear vision, your compass can point north, but you will remain stationary. The dial is what gives your journey a specific destination. The third part is the needle of your intuition. Your intuition is not a magical psychic force. It is your subconscious mind, a supercomputer of immense power, processing billions of bits of data from your past experiences, your knowledge, and your observations. It is the sensitive, trembling needle of the compass. Often it will point you in a direction that your logical mind cannot yet understand. It is that gut feeling, that quiet inner knowing that says, go this way, or be cautious here. The sovereign ruler learns to respect the wisdom of this needle. They do not follow it blindly, but they always listen to its counsel. It is the early warning system and the opportunity detector of your own soul. So, this is your instrument, your values as your true north, your vision as your destination dial, and your intuition as your guiding needle. But how do you learn to read it? In our noisy, modern world, the signal from this internal compass is often drowned out. We must therefore practice the art of attunement. This is how you calibrate your compass. The first practice of attunement is the practice of deliberate solitude. You cannot hear the quiet whisper of your internal compass in the middle of a screaming crowd. You must be willing to create regular, scheduled periods of silence and solitude in your life. This is your retreat to the internal throne room we have spoken of. It is in this silence, away from the magnetic interference of other people's opinions and the endless chatter of the digital world, that the signal from your compass can finally be heard. Solitude is not a state of loneliness. It is the state of listening to your own deepest self. The second practice is the practice of self-inquiry through journaling. Journaling is the act of taking a reading from your compass. It is the process of asking your own inner wisdom, clarifying questions, and then writing down the answers that emerge. You ask questions like, is this current path in alignment with my core values? Does this decision move me closer to my vision? What is my intuition, the needle, telling me about this situation? The act of writing is a form of thinking. It takes the vague, cloudy feelings of your intuition and crystallizes them into clear, actionable insights. A daily journaling practice is the single most effective way to become fluent in the language of your own internal compass. The third practice is the practice of action and adjustment. The compass does not reveal the entire map at once. It only ever points you in the direction of the next right step. Your job is not to know the full path. Your job is to trust the compass for the next step and the next step only. You take a small, courageous step in the direction your compass is pointing. Then you pause and you observe the feedback from the world. Was that step met with a sense of flow and alignment, or was it met with excessive grinding friction? You take this new data, you retreat back to your solitude, you consult your compass again, and you adjust your course. This is the life of the navigator. It is a constant dynamic dance between internal guidance and external feedback. It is the process of trusting your compass, taking an action, learning from the result, and then recalibrating for the next move. When you learn to live this way, you develop a quality that is rare and powerful in our world, a quiet confidence. You are no longer easily swayed by the opinions of others because you are navigating by a force that is far more reliable. You are no longer terrified of uncertainty because you have an instrument that can guide you through any fog. You make decisions with a speed and a clarity that is baffling to the person who is still trying to take a vote among the weather vanes. You stop explaining yourself because your direction is not up for debate. You stop justifying your path because you are the only one who can read your own compass. Your actions become your explanation. Your progress becomes your justification. This does not mean you become rigid or arrogant. A wise navigator is always learning, always observing, but their final authority, their ultimate source of direction, is internal. This is the freedom you have been seeking. The freedom from the exhausting, impossible task of pleasing everyone. The freedom from the anxiety of second-guessing your every move. The freedom to walk your own authentic path with a deep and abiding sense of trust in your own inner wisdom. The world will continue to offer you its flawed and ever-changing maps. The winds of fashion and opinion will continue to howl. But you, the sovereign, the rescuer, you will have no need for them, for you have found the one true and unshakable guide. You have learned to listen to the quiet, steady, and infallible pull of your own internal compass. We have now arrived at the final decisive discipline. We have journeyed through the vast and often challenging internal landscape of the self. We have claimed our sovereignty, forged our discipline, curated our attention, embraced action, dissolved doubt, architected our environment, transformed our weaknesses, learned from our failures, and finally calibrated our own internal compass. We have done the deep internal work. We have the mindset. We have the tools. We have the philosophy. Our compass is pointing steadily toward our true north, and our vision is set. The internal blueprint is complete, clear, and unshakable. But all of this, all the self-reflection, all the learning, all the planning, all the wisdom is utterly and completely worthless without this final, critical, and transformative step. This is the discipline that breathes fire into the blueprint. It is the discipline that takes the internal world of your intention and makes it manifest in the external world of results. It is the final translation of knowing into doing, of potential into power. This is the 10th and final discipline, the mandate of execution. The world is not changed by your beautiful intentions. Your life is not transformed by your brilliant ideas. Your goals are not achieved by your noble aspirations. The great chasm between the life you are living and the life you dream of is not a chasm of knowledge, but a chasm of execution. We have in our society two distinct classes of people. It is not defined by wealth or status. It is defined by their relationship with this final mandate. The first class is the amateurs. The second is the professionals. The amateur is in love with the romance of the idea. They love the thrill of a new goal, the excitement of a new plan. They are a brilliant starter. They work in sporadic, emotional bursts, driven by the fickle winds of motivation and inspiration. When they feel good, they work. When they do not, they wait. They believe that the most important part of the journey is the dream. The professional, on the other hand, understands a deeper, more sober truth. They understand that the dream is merely the destination. The journey itself is the work. The professional is in love, not with the idea, but with the process of making that idea real. They do not wait for motivation to strike. They understand that motivation is a byproduct of the momentum created by their own disciplined action. The professional does not work when they feel like it. They work because they have made a commitment. Their actions are governed not by their mood, but by their mandate. The mandate of execution is the conscious, deliberate choice to live as a professional in the business of your own life. It is the understanding that once a goal is set and a path is chosen, thinking about it is over. The time for debate has passed. The time for execution has begun. To truly embrace this mandate, we must understand its anatomy. Relentless execution is not about frantic, mindless activity. It is a strategic philosophy built upon three pillars. The first pillar is the power of urgency. We must distinguish between the anxious, stressful state of hurrying and the focused, powerful state of urgency. Hurrying is a reaction to a lack of time. It is chaotic and inefficient. Urgency is a response to the value of time. It is focused and intentional. To live with a sense of urgency is to have a profound and abiding awareness that your time is your most precious, non-renewable asset. It is the understanding that the perfect moment you are waiting for is a fantasy. The only moment you ever have to act is now. The person who lives with urgency does not put things off. They do not say, "I will get to that tomorrow." They ask the question, "Why not now?" They understand that procrastination is the silent thief of life itself. It is the slow, comfortable surrender to a future that will never arrive. The mandate of execution demands that you declare war on this thief. You cultivate a bias for immediate action. You adopt a one-touch philosophy. If a task can be done in a few minutes, you do it now, not later. You build a reputation with yourself as a person who acts with decisiveness. The second pillar is the discipline of consistency. The amateur believes in the myth of the heroic effort. They believe that they can achieve their goals by pulling a few all-nighters, by working in one massive heroic burst of activity. The professional knows that this is a fool's game. Greatness is never the result of one heroic act. It is the result of thousands of small, consistent, unglamorous acts performed day in and day out with relentless fidelity. It is the compounding interest of showing up. Consistency is the most powerful force in the universe. A small stream of water flowing consistently over 1,000 years can cut a canyon through the hardest rock. A massive one-time flood may cause a lot of noise, but it has no lasting impact. The mandate of execution requires you to fall in love with the routine, with the schedule, with the simple, repeatable act of doing the work. You do not ask yourself, do I feel like working today? You simply execute the plan. You honor the schedule. You lay one more brick on the wall you are building. It is this relentless consistency, this refusal to break the chain of your own commitments, that builds the momentum that makes you unstoppable. The third pillar is the art of the finisher. Our world is filled with brilliant starters. The graveyards of ambition are littered with the headstones of half-finished projects, half-written books, and half-built businesses. It is easy to start. The initial burst of enthusiasm carries you forward. But the true measure of a professional, the true test of your commitment to the mandate of execution, is your ability to finish. To be a finisher means you must have the grit to push through what is often called the dip, that long, difficult middle period of any ambitious project where the initial excitement has faded, but the finish line is not yet in sight. This is where most people quit. This is where the work becomes a grind. The finisher understands that this is the most important part of the journey. They have the mental toughness to stay engaged when the work is no longer new and exciting. They have the focus to see a project through to its absolute completion, to polish the final details, to close every loop. The world does not belong to the starters. It belongs to the finishers. You must cultivate the identity of a finisher. You must build a reputation with yourself as a person who, when they begin something, sees it through to the end. So, this is the anatomy of execution, a sense of urgency, a commitment to consistency, and the identity of a finisher. But to practice this, we must also be aware of the great enemies of execution, the subtle forces of resistance that will try to pull you back into the comfortable world of the theorist. The first enemy is the seduction of more research. This is a sophisticated form of procrastination. You tell yourself you are being diligent, that you are gathering more information to make a better decision, but often this is just a mask for the fear of taking action. You must learn to distinguish between the necessary learning required to start and the endless learning used to avoid starting. The professional understands the law of diminishing returns. There is a point where more information does not lead to better outcomes, but only to more delay. You must have the courage to say, I have enough information to take the next step, and then to take it. The second enemy is the tyranny of the perfect plan. As we have discussed, the perfect plan is a myth. The desire for a perfect, risk-free plan is the ultimate enemy of execution. You must embrace the principle of imperfect action. You must be willing to launch the 80% solution, to ship the product that is not yet flawless, to have the conversation that you have not perfectly rehearsed. Done is better than perfect. The feedback you receive from your imperfect action in the real world is infinitely more valuable than the perfect plan that exists only in your mind. The third enemy is the comfort of busyness. Do not confuse activity with accomplishment. Our modern world makes it very easy to be busy. You can spend your entire day answering emails, attending meetings, and responding to notifications. At the end of the day, you will feel exhausted, and you will feel as though you have been productive. But busyness is often just another form of procrastination. It is the act of filling your time with low-impact, trivial tasks to avoid the one or two high-impact, difficult tasks that would actually move your life forward. The executor is ruthless in their prioritization. They identify the vital few tasks and they attack them with their best energy, often first thing in the day. They are willing to let the trivial many wait. They would rather have a day with one significant accomplishment than a day with 20 trivial activities. This is the philosophy. This is the mandate. It is the final, powerful step that turns your entire internal architecture into a force in the world. It is the moment the sovereign's decree becomes law in the land. It is the moment the rescuer stops planning the rescue and begins the hard, glorious work of carrying it out. The mandate of execution is not just a discipline, it is a promise. It is the promise you make to your own vision. It is the promise that your goals will not just be dreams that live in your journal, but achievements that are etched into the stone of your own history. You have done the work. You have aligned your mind. Your compass is true. Your discipline is forged. Now, all that remains is the work itself. Do not look back. Do not hesitate. Do not wait for a better moment. The moment is now. Attack your goals. Attack your day. Attack this very moment with the full force of your focus and your will. Live as a practitioner, not a theorist. Live as a finisher, not a starter. Live as a professional in the sacred business of your own life. This is your final discipline. This is your mandate. This is the moment you stop preparing to live, and you simply, powerfully, and relentlessly live. We have now reached the end of our journey together, but in truth, it is the beginning of the only journey that has ever mattered. We have traveled from the desolate island of passive waiting to the sovereign shores of active creation. We have walked the long and challenging road through the 10 disciplines of a life of absolute control. We have stood in the quiet throne room of our own mind and in the fiery forge of our own potential. And now we find ourselves at a summit, a high vantage point from which we can look back and see the entire path, not as a series of disconnected steps, but as a single, coherent, and powerful philosophy for living. The purpose of this final session is not to learn a new discipline. The toolkit is complete. The purpose now is one of final, powerful integration. It is to take the 10 individual notes we have learned and to finally hear the symphony. It is to move from understanding the principles to embodying the philosophy. It is to finally and fully answer the question that began our journey. We began with a question whispered in the dark: who is coming to save me? And we have spent our time together dismantling the great myth of external salvation and discovering the profound, unshakable, and ultimately challenging truth. The rescuer is not coming because the rescuer is already here. It is you. Let us now, one final time, walk the path of these disciplines, not as individual lessons, but as an interconnected system, a symphony of sovereignty that, when played together, creates the music of a well-lived life. Our journey began with the coronation, the first and most critical discipline, the principle of sovereignty. We accepted that our life is our empire and we are its sole ruler. We made the courageous decision to stop abdicating our throne to the chaotic committee of other people's opinions and to the comfortable tyranny of our own excuses. We took the crown of absolute responsibility, understanding that we are not at fault for all our circumstances, but we are responsible for our response to all our circumstances. This was our declaration of independence. But a sovereign with no power to enact their will is merely a figurehead. And so we immediately forged the scepter of our new authority, the alchemy of discipline. We transformed our understanding of discipline from a punishment to be avoided into an alchemical process to be embraced. We learned that discipline is the furnace that transmutes the lead of our raw effort into the gold of our skill, the pressure that transforms the carbon of our character into the diamond of our resilience, and the rudder that guides the chaotic ship of our emotions with the steady hand of our purpose. A powerful engine, however, needs a direction. And so in our third discipline, we became the curator of our own attention. We recognize that our attention is our most valuable currency and that we live in a world designed to steal it. We became ruthless gatekeepers of our own mind, choosing to build a mental museum of masterpieces of powerful ideas and a clear vision, rather than allowing it to become a cluttered warehouse of digital junk and secondhand outrage. We learned that where our focus goes, our life flows. This focused, disciplined energy then demanded an outlet. It required a bridge to the real world. That bridge was our fourth discipline, the philosophy of action. We made the pivotal shift from the passive theorist to the active practitioner. We embraced the truth that clarity is a consequence of action, not a prerequisite for it. We committed to the art of the decisive first step, of imperfect action, and of falling in love with the process, not just the outcome. We chose to write a life of execution, not of explanation. The moment we stepped onto the field of action, we were met by the great shadow of ambition, doubt. And so our fifth discipline was to learn the antidote to doubt. We recognized doubt not as a fact, but as a story. We learned not to argue with the shadow, but to dissolve it with the light of action. We committed to burying the hydra of doubt under a mountain of small, daily, irrefutable proofs of our own competence, building our confidence not on wishes, but on the hard-won evidence of our own efforts. With our internal world becoming stronger, we turned our gaze outward. In our sixth discipline, we became the architect of our environment. We accepted the profound truth that we are a product of the water we swim in. We made the courageous choice to prune the toxic influences, the complainers, and the cynics from our lives. We committed to designing a social, informational, and physical environment that supported our highest self, surrounding ourselves with the people and ideas that would pull us forward, not hold us back. Within the safety of this newly designed fortress, we were finally strong enough to do the deepest work of all. In our seventh discipline, we embraced the utility of weakness. We stopped seeing our weaknesses as a source of shame and began to see them as the raw, unrefined iron ore of our potential. We became the master blacksmith, unafraid to place our own imperfections into the fire of deliberate practice, hammering them with focus and quenching them with feedback, transforming our greatest liabilities into our most formidable strengths. This challenging process of the forge guaranteed that we would encounter the greatest of all teachers. And so, in our eighth discipline, we enrolled in the University of Failure. We withdrew from the prison of perfectionism and learned to see failure not as a verdict, but as tuition for an invaluable education. We learned to own our mistakes, to dissect them without judgment, and to extract the priceless lessons of humility, resilience, and creativity that can only be learned through falling down and choosing to get back up. Having burned our old, flawed maps in the fires of failure, we needed a new way to navigate. And so, in our ninth discipline, we learned to trust the internal compass. We stopped navigating by the shifting, unreliable weather vane of public opinion and learned to trust the true north of our own values, the destination dial of our own vision, and the sensitive needle of our own intuition. We learned to find our direction in the quiet of our own throne room, not in the noise of the crowd. And finally, with our direction clear and our internal state aligned, we embraced the final driving force. Our 10th discipline was the mandate of execution. We made the commitment to live as a professional, not an amateur, in the business of our own lives. We embraced the power of urgency, the discipline of consistency, and the identity of a finisher. We closed the gap between knowing and doing, and we channeled all of our sovereign, disciplined, and focused energy into the relentless daily work of making our vision a reality. Do you see now? It is a perfect, holistic system, a symphony. Each discipline supports and strengthens all the others. Your belief allows you to author your life. Your authorship gives your discipline a purpose. Your discipline allows you to focus your attention. Your focused attention makes your actions effective. Your actions are the antidote to your doubt. Your freedom from doubt allows you to architect your environment with confidence. Your supportive environment gives you the strength to transform your weaknesses. The process of that transformation teaches you how to learn from failure. The lessons of failure force you to trust your internal compass. And your internal compass gives your final, relentless execution a true and worthy direction. This is the philosophy of the rescuer. It is a closed loop of personal power. This brings us to the final, crucial understanding. These 10 disciplines are not a checklist to be completed. They are not a program you finish, after which you receive a certificate. This is a practice for life. It is a code to be lived every single. Your life is the great block of marble. Every morning you wake up, you are the sculptor, and you pick up the chisel of your daily choices and the hammer of your daily actions. Every time you choose to honor a commitment to yourself, you make a skillful strike, and a chip of excess stone falls away, revealing a more defined form. Every time you choose action over excuses, you make another strike. Every time you choose to learn from a setback instead of blaming it, you are the master craftsman refining your work. Conversely, every time you choose comfort over discipline, every time you allow the opinion of others to sway you from your compass, that too is a strike. But it is a clumsy, careless strike, one that can create a hairline crack in the masterpiece. The goal is not to achieve a static, finished perfection. A living masterpiece is never finished. It is always a work in progress. The deep, abiding joy of a well-lived life is found not in placing the final, triumphant statue on a pedestal. It is found in the dust, the sweat, and the sound of the hammer on the chisel. It is found in the holy, daily act of creation itself. And so we are back to the beginning, but we are not the same. We are no longer the castaway, scanning the horizon for a ship. We are the shipbuilder. We are the captain. We are the navigator. The question is no longer, who is coming to save me? You now know the answer. The only question that remains is the one that you must ask yourself every single morning for the rest of your life. As the rescuer, as the sovereign, as the architect of my own life, what magnificent work shall I choose to do today? The responsibility is immense. The power is profound. The opportunity is glorious. The time for waiting is over. The time for rescuing has begun. The work begins now. If you are committed to this journey of self-rescue, if you are ready to become the sovereign ruler of your own life, I invite you to make that commitment official. Subscribe to this channel and join a community of fellow architects and rescuers who are engaged in this same important work. The path can be challenging, but it is a path we can walk together. And finally, if this message has served you, consider sharing it with just one person you know who needs to hear that they, too, hold the power to be their own rescue. Thank you for your time and your attention. Now, go and handle it.